Halloween is just around the corner, which means it's time to get scary. Let's talk about that. Today, I want to talk about a movie that has influenced my love for horror forever. And that movie is Tobi Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths. In particular, Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother Franklin. It is all the more tragic in that they were young. But had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
This movie has to be, in my opinion, one of, if not the greatest, horror films of all time. Big emphasis on, in my opinion. I saw this movie for the first time like 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, and it has stuck with me as an absolute nightmare of a movie ever since. I am traumatized by this film. So let's get into it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in 1974 and was directed by Tobi Hooper. The film, from what I understand, had originally been advertised as like a sort of documentary, which of course in the beginning of the movie that is emphasized in like the narrator's introduction. But the movie itself is definitely not, and it is 100% terrifying. The story begins with a group of young adults who are on a trip through the back roads of Texas. They are on their way to go and visit the old home of our protagonists, if you will, Sally and Franklin, to visit their grandfather's abandoned house. Along the way, they come across a hitchhiker who's just meandering down the road, and they decide to pick him up. After picking up the hitchhiker, they make their way down the road a ways, and they begin to have some conversation with him. He's very strange, very odd, and he speaks with Franklin about the method of which cow farmers at like big dairy farms, bonk their cows, if you will. The hitchhiker then splits his own palm open with a knife, as well as then takes a picture of Franklin and asks him to pay him for it, which Franklin refuses, to which the hitchhiker then slices Franklin's arm open. They kick the hitchhiker out, he leaves a smear of blood on the side of their van, and they speed off. Shook up and absolutely terrified by this situation, the youngins then find themselves at a gas station not too far down the road. They're there to refill the van, but the owner of the gas station quickly informs them that he actually doesn't have any gas at his station. He's still waiting for the tanker to arrive. He offers them to stay at the gas station and wait for the truck to arrive, but instead, they're given a bag of barbecue and they just move about their day and continue on to Sally and Franklin's grandparents' house. The kids eventually reach the house, to which they begin to explore. Sally begins to tour them around the house, telling them stories and, tales of their childhood at their grandfather's house, while leaving Franklin alone downstairs in his wheelchair. Which, to be honest, I always feel so bad for Franklin in this movie. I've seen this movie 4 times, and I feel terrible for him. He gets so mistreated. I feel like everybody on the internet gives him so much crap for just apparently just being like a terrible person and being annoying. I literally saw somebody on the internet and said, and Franklin's just like a terrible person. And I was like, what are you talking about? The poor kid is getting bullied and left behind by the rest of the group. He obviously gets dragged on this trip and he didn't want to come. Like, what on earth is that all about? But after exploring the mansion, 2 of the young kids decide that they want to go for a swim. Franklin points them to a water hole that is somewhere between the sheds off in the distance behind the house. The 2 of them travel from behind the house out to the supposed water hole, which is sadly just dried up. But off in the distance from said water hole, the 2 notice a plume of smoke, to which they contribute to being from some sort of gas-powered machine. And also in the distance, they notice an old, withered house. The 2 kids run to the house in search of an owner, somebody who may be able to give them gas, because there just appears to be gas somewhere running on this farm, this property. They find a gas-powered generator, to which they have the brilliant idea to go knock on the door and just ask for some gas. When they go to the front door, nobody appears to want to answer. They knock and just gets left completely unattended to. Nobody answers the door. And eventually, he knocks again, to which the front door just opens. When he goes inside, he calls for someone. Anybody. Is anybody home? Can anybody help us? We need gas. Or somebody answer. He then wanders his way into a room in the back of the house. A red room full of skulls and bones, to which then we are introduced to my all-time favorite horror villain, Leatherface. Leatherface then knocks the poor kid out and drags him into the back, to which he doesn't appear to the front for several minutes. His girlfriend, or who I assume is his girlfriend, chases in the house after him to see what he's doing. Where are you at? What's taking so long? After going in, she can't locate him. She wanders around the house and stumbles upon a room full of feathers, bones, and chickens. She then finds what I consider to be just one of the most awesome spectacles in a horror movie. A bench made of human bones. I promise you guys, I'm not a psychopath, by the way. I don't think that's cool because it's a bench made of human bones, and I think that's cool. I just think from a horror movie perspective, just the thought of a bench made of human bones with a skull on the top of it, that's crazy. That's sick. That is totally horror. She then runs out of the room and into the back of the house where, sadly, her friend also wandered into, and she too is caught by Leatherface. Now this scene is what cemented the pure horror of this film for me. Leatherface appearing on screen when he takes the first kid out genuinely made me piss my pants when we first watched this movie. When my brother and I first sat down and watched it for the first time, I was terrified by Leatherface. And then she goes into the back, and I didn't think that this could get any worse. When he catches her, he then drags her into the back of the house. And viewer discretion advised. If you don't want to hear this, please click away, because there's going to be a lot of this in the rest of the video. He then hangs her on the wall from a meat hook. And oh my goodness, I never thought that a movie from the 1970s could be scary like this movie. Now, I know there's a lot of people who say there's plenty of disturbing movies from that era, they're just not on the front page. Guys, come on. And I've also had many people laugh at me and mock me for even thinking that this movie is terrifying. But I genuinely like to peel back the layers of this movie when I watch it and just really realize how just disturbing everything that goes on in this movie really is. And the fact that a movie from the 1970s, this for me, we watched it in October however many years back, we were doing like a horror movie stint. And we started off with like the classic monster movies. We watched things like Dracula, The Invisible Man, The Wolf Man. We watched a bunch of movies, and then we get to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because we finally reached the 70s in our whole list of movies we're watching, and it's the movie that it is. And it's just sick, and it's twisted, and it's crazy, and I just never expected that. The moment he hangs her up on the wall on this hook, I was just, like, traumatized. We then cut back to the remaining 3 of the group. They're waiting by the van, hollering the names of their 2 estranged friends who have just run off into the middle of nowhere to go for a swim, but they're not coming back, and it's getting late. One of the friends, whose name escapes me at the moment, wanders off and tells Sally and Franklin he's gonna go look for them. He wanders off back to the house, the same house that the other 2 fell prey to Leatherface's horrors. That same house. He goes there too. So you can only assume where this goes. He walks into the house and he finds an ice chest. And somebody's banging on it. And there appears to be something inside of it. To which he then opens it, and inside is his friend, mostly alive. I think she's supposed to be alive. That or her body's in like rigor mortis and it like, pew, like I know that's not how rigor mortis works, but I don't know if that was supposed to be the point. Still, her body pops out of the ice chest and he's terrified. Leatherface comes in, hits him on the head, and that's it. We are now down to 2 people left in the group. We then, again, go back to the van, to Franklin and Sally, who are sitting in the dark, awaiting their friend's return. Sally and Franklin then scoot their way on into the forest to look for them, and don't take offense to me saying scoot. I did not mean to say scoot, but that was the word that came out of my mouth at that time. Upon searching, they just have no luck. You know, they're screaming and nobody's answering. And this is where we come down to one remaining survivor. From the woods, the chainsaw beckons, and Franklin, the poor kid who just got dragged on this trip and was bullied the whole time, meets his unfortunate demise. And Leatherface then proceeds to chase Sally through the woods in one of my favorite horror chase scenes of all time. There are multiple instances that happen in this movie, like multiple scenes that just like take tropes from horror movies that we know and love, and they just appear one by one, and it's part of what makes this movie my absolute favorite, is just everything that happens in it is just chef's kiss. They do all the tropes perfectly, and I love it. Eventually, Sally makes her way to the lair of Leatherface, if you will. Oh, Leatherface lair. Leatherface, the leather lair. She makes her way to the old house. Leatherface chases her around the old house, to which she goes upstairs and finds somebody that she thinks can help her. But it turns out to just be a couple of dead corpses of some really old people. She then, in complete horror, sprints for the door and runs to the road in order to find somebody that can help her. She eventually makes her way back to the old gas station. She busts through the back door only to find the owner still back there, and she pleads for him to help her and call the police. This owner of the diner is no good guy. He's not the good guy. He's not good. He's not on our side, guys. He ties Sally up, throws her in his truck, and brings her back to the house that she once ran from. On their way back to the house, the same hitchhiker from earlier is also heading to the same place. She is then escorted inside by the psychotic hillbillies, if you will, and she is seated at a table to enjoy a dinner for some unholy, terrifying reason. Leatherface prepared a feast for everybody while wearing his makeup. It's a thing. Google Leatherface in the makeup. It's kind of creepy. Then they decide it's time for Sally to die. So they bring out a hammer and a bucket, and they bring Grandpa downstairs. That same corpse from upstairs that Sally ran into is actually their living freaking grandfather. And they put the hammer in his hand and they want him to bash her on the head until, details I won't add. And then she proceeds to somehow, at the moment it escapes me, escape. She breaks free and she runs off. When she reaches the road, she finds her salvation. A truck driver driving down the road stops to see what's happening, to help this girl covered in blood and everything, this beaten up and battered girl. What's going on? He stops only to see Leatherface running at her from the distance. The two of them start running themselves, trying to get away from this madness, whatever is going on. I can only imagine if that were real and that truck driver got out of his truck and saw that happening, what is the thought process at that point? You get out, you see this girl, and then you look off in the distance and there's a dude with a chainsaw and a mask made of people's skin. That's terrifying. Sally jumps in the back of a pickup truck that was driving by, and we see her drive off into the distance with a psychotic laugh, and then hence the greatest outro to any horror movie I have ever seen. Leatherface standing in the sunrise, swinging his chainsaw around in a circle, and it's awesome, guys. If you haven't seen that clip, what are you doing? Go Google it, because it's a great clip. And our poor victim gets away, and the family of hillbillies just goes back into hiding, I guess. If you've seen the second Texas Chainsaw, it kind of explains what happens since then, but it's also I don't think it's supposed to be directly connected. But either way, that, my friends, is a short and sweet, brief breakdown of my favorite horror movie of all time, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this movie. I don't know how many of you people think that I'm an idiot for even thinking that this movie is scary. Guess what? I don't care. I love this movie. It's terrifying. It's my favorite. I think it's the greatest horror movie of all time. And I have a poster on the wall. I don't know what that does for me, but there's a poster on the wall. But either way, go watch the movie if you haven't already. If you're squeamish, don't watch it because it's bloody and there's a lot of gross stuff that they talk about and that kind of happens in the movie. But it is by far just a wonderful masterpiece of a horror movie. And I did it for you guys for Halloween because it's spooky season. And anyway, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, and don't wander into random houses in the middle of Texas if you don't see a person in the front yard to begin with. If you don't know what the place is, don't go there. Don't just wander into people's yards or into people's houses, because this kind of thing could happen to you. And of course, I love you guys and appreciate you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!